studio in Railton, Tasmania, and today I'm going to show you how to make a light, airy cobweb scarf using one of our Merino wool batts. Okay, so what we'll need is some plastic sheeting. Old painter's drop sheets are ideal. Bubble wrap long enough to go under and over the project. Spray bottle or old detergent bottle. Old oil soap, bar of soap. A sander, but not the orbital type, and an old towel. And a bat. So you need a table obviously long enough to hold your scarf and wide enough. So the size of the scarf I'll be working on is roughly 1.6 metres by 30 centimetres wide. So I've worked on this table. Because we're going mainly in one direction, it won't shrink excessively. Okay, first off we lay down the bubble wrap on your table, bubble side up. Then we'll take the bat. This is a lovely fuchsia colour that Bowling has dyed and carded. So separate it into layers. You can separate it very easily. Then just pull off the pieces into the width you want your scarf to be. So I'm going for about 30 centimetres. So it's just a matter of separating them and laying it down. I've probably got a bit wider than what I intended, but it won't matter. And then when you lay it down, get it as fine as you can. And then overlapping when you need to. It's just a matter of separating and pulling it apart. This is a beautiful colour and the finished scarf should look just absolutely amazing. And just make sure you overlap it slightly so the fibres will drop together. And you can see I've got this piece a little bit narrower than the other one, so then I can just pull that off to make it the same width. It's so fluffy, it's almost like fairy floss, that's the word I'm trying to think of. So I have fairy floss scarves. And I just need a little bit more on the edge. Pull a bit more off. If anyone's felted with roving, they'll know how hard it is to get the roving separated into a nice fluffy state. You don't have that problem with bats. So they really are beautiful to work with. Okay, so we've got it laid down to pretty much the shape that we want. Now we need to fill our spray bottle with hot soapy water. Dishwashing liquid is fine. You don't need very much, just a small amount. And then we're just going to wet down the wool. So you go all over, making sure it's quite wet. The wetting process and the soap and agitation is what makes felt. once it's wet, you can then play with the design a little bit and put some holes in various spots. Just play around, poke your fingers into the fibres. Sometimes you might have to separate it a bit more than others. So you can do that wherever you think you might like a bit of interest. And we'll also be making a fringe on the ends. I'll just get my hands a bit wet and roll it in between. And try and taper the edges around a little bit on the ends. And along one side you can do a fringe just by rolling it out a little bit. But just do it on one side, and the other side will be where it goes around your neck, so you don't really want it filled all the way around. You don't have to do this if you don't want it, it's just purely a personal decision. If you think you'd like to have the fringe look. I quite like it myself. And you just work your way all the way along and add holes where you think it might be good to put it. And if you need more soap, just more water and soap, just give it a bit of a squirt. And taper I like to taper the ends in because then it sort of fits nicely. And rub the fringe on the ends. And then we'll be ready to proceed to putting netting over the top. Right, once you're happy with your layout, it's time to place the netting over the top. And then we'll add more water and rub through. So just squirt more water down. With your bar of soap, just rub it gently in the direction that the scarf is laying. So the idea is to make sure that the water has saturated through all the wool. So if you've got any puffy areas, you just need to add a bit more water and push down on it to get it flat. If you've got it nice and flat, you know that you've successfully wet down all your layers, or your layer. So you're actually only working with one layer. So you get a nice light scarf. So push down as you work along. If you see a puffy bit, just give it a bit of attention. Felting is such fun, I just love it. And I love the results, and I particularly like working with the Batts because I just find them so much easier than trying to pull off pieces off rovings. It's the same as using a sander. It just makes the felting process so much quicker and easier. Then when you've wetted it all down and it feels, you can just gently rub it Make sure the water's all the way through. It's nice and soapy. And just switch that. Then you can remove the netting. Just make sure that the fibre isn't getting caught up in it. Just move it back if it does. Take the netting all the way off. Then have a look at your design and play a little bit with the fringes if you've decided to put fringes. Just make sure they're not caught up in another piece. And re-establish the holes, make sure they haven't closed over. Just play with the edges a little bit, the ones that aren't actually fringed. Roll the end ones because they're a bit longer. This is quite a simple scarf to start with, but for more experienced felters you can actually put pieces of silk around the holes or embellish afterwards when you've finished. They also look nice with felted flowers added. Maybe we could talk about that at another time and actually do some, and show you how to do some nice felt flowers. So just play with it until you're happy with what you've made in your design for your scarf. Now we've got the scarf that we're happy with how we've set it out. We're going to take the piece of plastic and lay it over the top of the scarf, and then the bubble wrap with bubble side down goes over top of the plastic sheeting to completely cover the scarf, and then we'll start sanding. Traditional felters would now roll all this up in a pool noodle or something similar, so it's all rolled up into a little roll, and then they would roll 100 times. But at a workshop when I first started felting, I learned how to use an electric sander, and I've used the electric sander ever since because it was so simple, and you also avoid the possibility of upsetting everything with the rolling. Some people are concerned that water and electricity don't mix, but if you just use common sense, we've got the layer of plastic, then we've got the bubble wrap. No water can possibly spray up. Just make sure that you haven't got an extension lead somewhere where water might drip onto it, and there's no problem. Now we'll start sanding. So the idea is, and you'll notice of course that there's no sandpaper, and it's not an orbital sander which goes round and round, it just goes backwards and forwards. I picked this one up at a garage sale for $2, I think it was, and I've been using it for years. Excuse me. So it's place the sander down, get it running. We'll work in one direction, then come back in the other direction. You just hold it there for a count of 8. Then you would pick it up and move it, count of 8, work your way all the way along, then come back. So go in one direction, either vertical or horizontal, whichever you choose to do first. And after one sanding up and back, it should be felted. I will show you briefly what to do and then pause and come back after it's finished. So you would continue all the way along like that, then you would come back in this direction. Okay, we've finished sanding our scarf, so what we'll do now is remove the bubble wrap and the plastic, and we'll check to make sure that it is felted by doing what we call the pinch test. So you just lightly pinch the felt and you can see that it's holding together and that it's felted. If it hasn't felted and if the piece sort of lifts up, then you need to cover it back over and sand it. But this is fine. So, except for the little ends here that need a little bit of treatment, because they were hanging over the end of the table, so I'll just lightly roll them. Also, if you haven't got a table that's quite long enough to lay your scarf completely out, the way to get over that is to work on whatever you can fit on the table and just leave the rest folded down the side and wait until you finish one end and then just move it all up and work on that bit. Because some people may not have a really long table. If you're going to do a lot of felting, I strongly recommend that you invest in a big table to work on. Makes it so much easier. So it's holding together nicely, so you can just gently pick it up and flip it over. It won't fall to pieces. And just make sure that everything's laid back down where it was. And your holes, you can check your holes again. Play a bit with your fringe ends. Spread it out properly. Just work your way along, flipping it over gently. But as you can see, it's quite holding together quite firmly, which is the beauty of the sanding. Reinforce your holes. Check the edges and you haven't got anything tucked in underneath. Now the next step is that we sand from this side, so we need to cover it again with the plastic and the bubble wrap and do the same procedure as you did it on the other side. Okay, so cover it again with plastic and bubble wrap. Put the bubble side down again. And even, I mean, if you look at this side, it's passes the pinch test, which means that that side is felted as well, but we will still go over and sand it. So it's once again with the sander going vertical for 8 counts in one spot, move the sander 8 counts, go all the way along the scarf and back, and then do it in the horizontal position. Now we have finished sanding on the other side of the scarf, so we'll put the sander out of the way, take the bubble wrap and plastic off, do the pinch test again. You can see that it's all holding together beautifully, and just reinforce your holes again, make sure they haven't closed over. If any little stray bits have gone in, you can just remove them with your fingers or cut them with a little pair of scissors and then rub around the edges to seal it. Make sure your fringe ends are nicely felted together, which they are. Now, have some hot water in a dish ready, and I just usually roll up the scarf and squeeze out out the water that's cold by now. That's hot soapy water and cold soapy water. And then have a container of very hot water ready. And unroll your scarf, drop it in, and then you can agitate, just like stir around, just like it's in a washing machine. Because what we need to do now is what it's called fulling the felt, which makes it all shrink up together so that it won't fall to pieces when you wear it. You do that a few times, and then because the water's quite hot, it's a good idea to put on some rubber gloves because it is just a little bit hot. Thank you. And then I'll take it out, squeeze out most of the water. And then drop it up and down vigorously on the bench. Always squeezing, not actually wringing. Okay, then it's a matter of slamming it down at least 20 times. Just have a look at it to make sure that it's nicely felted, which it is. Holding together. And give it a rinse. Just to get rid of all the soap. And I'll spread it out and check it. See what it looks like. You should have a beautiful white scarf. If you want your edges fluted, you can just twist them. Stretch and work with it a little bit. That will give it a nice little slightly frilled appearance along the neck edge. The other edge has got your fringe on it. beautiful, soft, lightweight scarf out of a merino wool bat. I just weighed what wool I had left, and it was 50 grams, so out of one bat, if you make the same size scarf as I have here, you'll be able to get 2 scarves out of it, or otherwise out of a 50 gram bat you can get one scarf this size. And as you can see, it hasn't actually shrunk all that much, maybe a little bit on the ends. But yes, not like as much as if you were doing a thicker scarf that has, you know, layers overlapping. And all it needs now is to put it to dry, usually on a towel or a couple of towels, and then when it's dry you can steam iron it just to finish it off. I'll just lay my old towel out and then put the scarf over the top of it. It just helps absorb the little bit of water that's remaining in it and dries it a bit quicker. And if it's a nice sunny day, you can put it outside in the sun on maybe just on the ground or on a rack, drying rack. You leave it until it's completely dry. And there's our lovely scarf.